Hey, Dr. Brett here. So I'm back with my co-host, Veronica Brion, from our radio show, Open Door with Dr. Brett, and we're here to answer some questions on life and business and whatever.
Life and business and whatever. So, people have started different businesses and they've failed. How do you come back from failure and continue to start another business?
It's a great question. I just had a client yesterday who talked about that sometimes business people actually accept the fact that you failed. In other words, if you're truthful about your failure and you've learned from that failure, you're probably more experienced than someone that's never failed. Because people that have never failed, they have a tendency to get a little bit arrogant or full of themselves. People that have gone through failure have really learned lessons that are really tough and maybe give them more strength for the future.
That's good. So, but how do you teach them how to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and start all over again, as the song says?
Yeah, well, I've done that in my life. I had to pick myself up and dust myself off. I went through a devastating health crisis about 5 years ago, and I lost my entire business. I lost my health. It really took me several years to put my physical health back together, but I also had to recreate my business at 43 years old, basically from the beginning again. And it wasn't easy, but the process of doing it, the more you do, the better you get. And the more I was in the game, the better I felt mentally. Physically, it took longer because of the fatigue that I was experiencing. But the process of getting out there and creating again snowballs in a positive way, and then you're building again. So you got to get back in the game. In other words, get back on the horse.
How do I get back in the game and get back on the horse?
Which game?
Whatever game it is. Let's say.
In other words, you got to put yourself in the game, even if you're scared. Courage is basically that it's not that you don't have fear; you do it anyway. That's courage.
Like starting networking again, or
exactly.
Just doing emails slowly but surely, and just getting out there. Even if you do 100 emails and you get one response, that's one response that you got, which should excite you, even though it may not be may not come to anything, but at least you got a response.
Exactly. So the more action you take in general, the better. And what I'm doing as a guide is I'm helping people tweak their action so they're not just taking indiscriminate action, we're targeting action. So what you want to do is you want to get back in the game, but then you want to, over time, gradually refine what you're doing to target your actions so that they have more value. And you're not just going after anyone and anything in some kind of scattershot approach.
Perfect. And now if I want, make phone calls, network, meet one person a week, 3 people a week, 5 people a week, whatever that takes.
Yeah, again, when I started over, I met between probably 10 and 20 people a week for at least a year. That's pretty intense, but the more I did it, the more it just opened and the more creative the experience became. Now when I network, I talk often about taking a genuine interest in others, just the way I love to do life. But when you network, it's especially important because if you're just too caught up in you, you're not enrolling to other. But if you actually have a genuine interest in other people and you influence their life in a positive way, you set them up with somebody, you offer them a perspective or an insight, then you're adding value. And if you're adding value, they're more likely to add value back.
That's awesome. So in terms of me starting over again in business, or anybody else out there starting over again in business, it's one baby step at a time, and maybe one giant step at a time, depending on how well
it depends how fast you want to go, right? So if you're meeting one person a week, that's 50 people in a year. That has value. That's the kind of thing that I coach people to do if they have a full-time job. Meet 1 or 2 people a week anyway, because you're building on a network, and at some point you might either want to change your job or you might lose your job, and this network will have value. But if you've already lost your job and you're unemployed, meeting 1 or 2 people a week is not that much, right? You have all this time. Let's meet 10 people a week or more, and then you're really in the game. And again, if you're taking a genuine interest in other and not doing, the me, or I'm scared, then you become more interesting. If you're more interesting, people like to contribute. In general, a lot of people do like to help if they can and if they like you. And the key is, if you take an interest in them, they're more likely to like you.
Okay. Well, I guess that's good for me for right now. I'm gonna have many, many more questions later.
Awesome, and we'll come back at another time.
Absolutely. Thanks
Thank you so
again.
much.